You wouldn't know by looking outside, but summer is basically here. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of going meeting to meeting, sitting in my office / the spare room. So it made me think, what would be the best tech jobs to get this summer? So first we need some criteria. 1, it has to be a remote job, so we have to be able to work from anywhere. 2, it has to have no meetings, or at least a low number of meetings. And 3, it has to be flexible time-wise, so we have to be able to do our work at any time of the day. So, what jobs meet this criteria? Well, if we ask ChatGPT, it comes up with the standard freelance developer, e-com, content creation, data scientist. And first of all, we're going to have to score out e-com, freelance, content creator, because for this, you're going to have to spend a lot of time building a reputation. You're going to have to reach out, blah, blah, blah. It's not a job. It's going to take probably the entire summer before you become properly profitable and are able to turn that into a full-time job. Let's just look at actual jobs where you get paid actual money by an employer. So first up, you can't avoid it, you have software developers. So coders are notorious for having no meetings, staying up all night, playing video games, and does that not sound like the dream? Well, maybe if you're 14. But if you're an adult, what it has is the ability to work from anywhere, make great money, and have good career progression. So the only meetings you're going to have are your standard agile meetings, such as like your daily stand-up, which is only going to be like 50 minutes long. The rest of the day you can spend time working alone, which means there's probably going to be no constraints on the 9 to 5 schedule. You'll be solving problems from a mathematical angle, and depending on your position, you might even be working on something visual, which, you know, is always rewarding. The standard roles within software development are front-end, back-end, and full stack, which covers all the ends. If you're looking to move into software development and you have no idea where to start, I would say start with Python probably, or maybe even JavaScript. Do a free course, you get like Code Academy, free Code Camp. But honestly, the best place is probably YouTube. If you just go on YouTube and look up tutorials and just follow a couple of those. Not only will this give you the basic skills, but you can put it on your CV as some personal projects that you've worked on, and it gives you something to talk about at your interview. And some bonus tips from a computer science graduate is if you're actually looking to get serious about this, you need to buy Cracking the Coding interview, obviously, and then you need to complete everything on LeetCode. DevOps engineering. Now this is something you might not be familiar with, and if you look it up, it'll come back with a bunch of words that you don't really know what they mean and they don't really make sense together, because that's what happened to me the first time I was looking up DevOps. For a better explanation, DevOps is development operations. Development referring to software development, and operations referring to the operations which facilitate the development. And so a DevOps engineer deals with the infrastructure which underpins the development process, basically letting software developers do their thing. So your main focus here will be on what we call CI/CD pipelines and IAC. What it actually means. When developers write code, they have different stages of development. So they'll have a dev stage, a test stage, and a prod stage. Now these environments where these things are being built have to be managed, they have to be secure, and they have to be linked together to be able to push the app or the code that the software developer makes from one stage into the next, Now to do this, we use IAC, which is infrastructure as code. And essentially what it means is that instead of having servers that you would see with all the cables and stuff, instead of all this, what we do is we use the cloud, the elusive cloud, which is like computers in the sky, and we write code which then basically uses these computers in the cloud. If you're a consultant or you're working on migrating systems to the cloud, then you could probably do that any time of the day. But if you're managing existing pipelines, you'll need to be there 9 to 5 in case developers get into any issues. But this does depend on the company and the role, so make sure you read the job description and ask at the interview, because remember, an interview isn't just to see if you're fit for the company, it's to see if the company is fit for you. And as you might have imagined from how I've described this role, it's a completely different type of problem solving to software development. Software development, you're trying to create algorithms and solve problems at this kind of lower mathematical level. Meanwhile, within DevOps, really what you're doing is you're thinking of things conceptually and how they all fit together, and or troubleshooting. And as you can imagine, with this quite steep learning curve that you can encounter, where you have to learn concepts such as containerization or DNS, all these things which actually are nowhere near as complicated as they sound, but it is things you have to know. And because of that, the barrier to entry is a little bit higher, the learning curve is a bit steeper than a software developer, and so as a junior, you will get paid more. Next up we have data engineer. Now this is quite similar to a DevOps engineer, however, as the name would imply, what we're looking at here is not pipelines for development operations, but pipelines for data. Now this involves ETL and data warehousing and concepts such as this, but again, they're actually not as complicated as they sound. For instance, ETL stands for extract, transform and load, and this is just the main phases in data processing. Now the obvious benefit here is it's a data engineer. Data, you can put on your LinkedIn profile that you work in data. But another benefit is that unlike DevOps engineer, because you're probably creating pipelines and not managing current infrastructure, you're more likely to be able to work outside of business hours. But again, clarify this with the job description and then double check at the interview as well. Like DevOps engineer, this role is pretty well paid, especially as a junior, but again, it's because it's got a higher barrier to entry. You can't just learn, front-end development, a little bit of JavaScript or something, and get a role. You really have to conceptually understand what's going on here. But if this does sound like the barrier to entry is a bit high, don't worry, our next job is something you can get with little or no experience, and it's still within data. Right, so if you like the idea of being data-driven and you want to Mr. Beastify the world,
this is the largest stadium in the world.
You can't be bothered getting a PhD. This one is for you. So it's not a data scientist, but a data analyst. However, you have to watch here when you look up data analyst, as an analyst can mean any role within data. But again, just read the description, ask at the interview. But as the name would suggest, the main point of this role is to analyze data. Now, why are you analyzing data? To make data-driven business decisions. Now, this can be as simple as an A/B test, but it can be as complicated as, say, a company's released a new product and you want to analyze the sentiment of the customers on Twitter and see did they like us or did they not. You'll be able to start with minimal experience, get paid pretty well, especially as a junior, and again, you'll be able to have data on your LinkedIn profile. Although career progression for this is not as straightforward as like a software developer or a DevOps engineer or something. And so you probably will end up moving out of data analysis or being a data analyst. But it does put you in good stead as you now know how businesses make decisions and how you derive insight from data, which is a skill that's needed across the industry and in every single business. And it's just going to become more prominent and more important as time moves on. The one potential drawback is because it's not definitely a developer role, so you could be not technically a developer, you might be dragged into loads of meetings. However, you might not. Again, it's something you have to ask at the interview. Make sure you read the job description. However, just like all the roles in this video, you'll probably be remote, which is something good that you can search for when you're applying, like on LinkedIn, for instance. You can click remote roles only. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you've tried any of these roles, let me know in the comments below, or if you have any roles that you think are better than this, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.